broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show every day, covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. You know, we started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, we're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide, reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Hey, what do you say, everybody? Great to see you on a Monday. Big Monday, August 31. Can you believe it? Here we go. President Obama off to Alaska today for 3 days. He'll be up there doing many things, including renaming Mount McKinley, putting it back to its original Indian name, Mount Denali. And the president will be talking a lot about climate change. Maybe while he's up there, he will see how beautiful the Arctic is and change his mind about allowing more offshore drilling in those pristine waters. The latest polls are out for Iowa, and it's big news for the two outsiders. Donald Trump, way out in front. Well, he's out in front at least, 23%. Second place is Ben Carson, surprise, with 18%. Jeb Bush is way back at 6% in Iowa. And on the Democratic side, the big news is Bernie Sanders closing in on Hillary Clinton. She still leads with 37%, but he now has surged up to 30% within striking distance of Hillary Clinton. Martin O'Malley over the weekend blasting Democratic leaders for limiting the number of debates to a total of 6, only 4 of them before the Iowa caucuses. O'Malley says the entire system has been rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Sanders has said he agrees with O'Malley. They have both protested to Democratic Party leaders. And in the ultimate test, I guess, of reality TV, Sarah Palin, over the weekend, interviewed Donald Trump. Talk about two, total losers. And it was a big love fest, of course, nothing but softballs from Sarah Palin for Donald Trump. All of that coming up, so give us a call, whether you're watching on Free Speech TV or watching on our video stream, TawkrTV. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us this Monday.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your TV and online, this is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama off to Alaska for 3 days. Why doesn't he stay in this country? Oh, that's right. Damn, I forgot. Alaska is a state. Hey, what do you say? What do you say? Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Welcome back on a Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Ready to rock and roll here with all the news of the day on this last day of August. Can't believe it. Summer, man. It's gone. Yeah. It's gone. Yeah. Next weekend, Labor Day weekend. So there you go. And most kids are already back to school already. Yeah.
Day one for my kids.
Is it really?
You can tell by the big smile on my face.
Oh, yeah.
They're going back to school today, baby.
Get them out of the house.
That's
right. Good to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you. We're here with you on your local progressive talk radio station. We are here with you in Radioland on the great radio apps, iHeartRadio or TuneIn. Both of them are free. Tell you all about them every day almost because it's just a great way to be able to listen to the show on the radio anywhere you are in the great land on your electronic device. Just go to, again, TuneIn app or iHeartRadio. And we're here with you on Free Speech TV, coast to coast, as well as worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks to Sabrina Siddiqui for keeping the ship afloat on Friday. Well, I was out in Minneapolis with the Democratic National Committee, interviewing and talking to Lincoln Chafee and Hillary Clinton and Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders. Woohoo! All four Democratic candidates there. Couldn't resist the opportunity to see them all, and we'll tell you all about it throughout the morning here. Great to see you. Good to be back with you. Look forward again to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS. Or you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn here, leading the team again this morning.
Hello, Bill.
Indeed.
Monday.
Lisa Murphy has left us for other greener pastures, maybe, she thinks, at any rate. So Jamie Benson has stepped up to the big responsibility of running the board here.
God.
Good morning.
Just don't screw it up, man. All right.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, your fingers are crossed. And that means we got Ray Rogers in to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Balding. Steady as she goes there on the video, our videographer. And well, I got to tell you, every time this 2016 campaign, you don't think it could get any sillier, right? And it does. I mean, every day it just doesn't. There seems to be no limits to how low it can sink. Okay, so I guess we have to say the pinnacle of political journalism, the summit of reality TV, occurred over the weekend.
Oh, man.
When two of the least intelligent and least capable people who have ever been on a national, or who have ever run for a national political office, sat down together, and Sarah Palin interviewed Donald Trump. I'm telling you. And, of course, she wants to know, this is her totally objective question about Jorge Ramos from Univision.
You're seeing some
idiots in the press, and they're misrepresenting your exchange, like the other day with the political activist, the father of the Clinton staffer, Univision's Jorge Ramos, and you schooled that radical activist.
You see some idiots.
You schooled that radical activist. How do you like that question, man? I got to tell you. So, of course, Donald Trump said, yeah.
He was totally out of line. He was screaming and ranting and raving. And I actually said, who is this guy? Then I figured it out. And, I'm suing Univision, actually, for $500 million. His daughter works for Hillary Clinton, and he was trying to put on a show.
That's what it's all about. See, you missed that, yeah. He's suing Univision, so they send Jorge Ramos in, that. So now we understand it all. Oh, God.
I have to say, I watched that whole Palin-Trump thing online because, shockingly, I don't get the One America News Network that she is a part of. It was so boring, and it's just two twisted minds talking right past each other.
Yeah.
It was really painful to watch.
And by the way, so at the end of the interview, Donald Trump says, wait a minute, where is it? No. I have to tell you, you are a terrific person, and it's great to be with you.
Gross.
slobber.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but we got a lot more important political news to talk about, including the latest polls in Iowa. And I want to tell you all about Minneapolis. We'll have reporters in today from the National Journal, from Huffington Post, and from ThinkProgress. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Manspreading. Do you know what manspreading is, Bill?
I'm afraid to ask.
It's not as bad as it sounds. It's when men on public transportation sit down and spread their legs and take up, like 2 seats so that people can't sit next to them. It's called manspreading, and it's now an official word at OxfordDictionaries.com. This is the website that's maintained by the Oxford Dictionary and adds new words every quarter, and manspreading leads the list of new words at OxfordDictionaries.com. Also on the list, beer o'clock, which is anytime that you start drinking beer, it's time to have a beer. It's beer o'clock. Also, wine o'clock, which is the same thing for wine.
Not really words.
Instead of, these are phrases. Slang phrases. Yeah. Butt dial is finally in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which has been around for a long time. And also, cat cafe. Also making it into OxfordDictionaries.com. This is a cafe where you can go. It's filled with cats that you can go and hang out with.
There is one in Georgetown,
There is one,
I still haven't been there.
No, I haven't either. Shock. I'm not sure that I'm going to go. But cat cafe is now a real word.
All right, manspread. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Big news for the Chicago Cubs last night. Their right-hander, Jake Arrieta, pitched a no-hitter against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Been kind of a rough stretch for the Dodgers, by the way. They just got no-hit by the Houston Astros 9 days ago. Mike Fierce threw a no-hitter against the Dodgers. But big win for the Cubs. Needed only 116 pitches to mow down the Dodgers. Of course, the Cubs take away a win in that game.
Yeah, wow, good for him.
And how about this? NASA just sent 6 people to Mars. Well, not exactly. What they did do is they took 6 people and locked them inside of a bubble at the base of a Hawaiian volcano for a year. They are going to be completely... They've replicated the conditions that would exist on Mars inside this bubble, right? So they're going to have to figure out how to live eating powdered cheese. They're not going to have a ton of shower space. It's going to be very, very tight quarters. 6 humans, an astrobiologist, a physicist, a pilot, an architect, a journalist, and a soil scientist are all going to figure out how to live in this 36 by 20 foot dome.
Yeah.
They have been locked in. They were locked in on Friday, and they'll see them again.
Now, I've read about that. For some reason, this area of Hawaii and this slope of this volcano is like the ideal conditions.
Yeah.
This bubble and everything.
It's this barren...
They've been working on it for a long time.
This barren volcano land in Hawaii. So, yeah. All right. See you in a year.
Yeah, well, good luck. Yeah, indeed. 2016, we start there today. A lot going on. And first of all, the latest polls out of Iowa on both sides are very, very interesting. On the Republican side, it is Donald Trump way out in front. Well, not that far out in front, but clear. But the fact is, it's Donald Trump, the man everybody thought would, melt like a cake of ice. As soon as he announced, not happening, he just keeps getting stronger and stronger. He's up with number one with 23%. Remember, there's 17 candidates, so not a lot to go. Too many to split up the pie, if you will. He's got 23% in second place. Surprise to me, surprised a lot of people. Ben Carson. Why? What does he offer? Anyhow, Ben Carson. What do any of them offer? Ben Carson at 18%. And then it's a big dip way down to Ted Cruz and Scott Walker tied at 8%. And the real shocker, Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio tied at 6%. So, some of the Rick Perry people over the weekend quit Rick Perry's campaign and went to work for Donald Trump. So it looks like Trump could win Iowa. And on the Democratic side, the big news is that Hillary Clinton, who had a commanding 25 point lead at one point in Iowa over anybody else, she is now getting closed in on by Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, she still leads with 37%, but Bernie is up to 30%, getting close to the margin of error for Bernie in Iowa. Joe Biden, by the way, still hasn't announced, but he gets 14% in this latest Iowa poll. And on the Democratic side, yes, I went out to Minneapolis on Thursday. Actually had dinner with Senator Sanders and his wife Thursday evening. I'll tell you all about that.
One of the many reasons to follow us on Twitter, by the way, at BP Show.
Thank you. Put out a lot of photos from the event on Friday. And from dinner also Thursday night with Mr. and Mrs. Sanders, Senator and Mrs. Sanders. Friday was the summer meeting of the Democratic National Committee, and there were presentations by 4 out of 5 candidates. Jim Webb, by the way, canceled. Jim Webb canceled because he had to take his daughter to college that weekend. I mean, okay, that's important, but is he running for president or not? You know what I mean? He certainly could have come in, given a speech, and then joined up with his daughter. Yeah. I mean, didn't have to. Anyhow, loser. But for 4 of them, Lincoln Chafee, Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, and Bernie Sanders were there. And a couple of takeaways. I'd love to get your take on. I'm sure you saw some of the news over the weekend, 866-55-PRESS. The one is, what a contrast. Because remember, a couple of weeks ago, I went up to Manchester, New Hampshire, to see all the Republican candidates at their issues forum, okay? There were 15 out of 17 there. Let me tell you, what a contrast between the 4 Democratic candidates in Minneapolis and the 17 Republican candidates. I mean, you've got 4 people. Not all of them maybe have the resources or what it's going to take to win the presidency, but every one of those 4, you can bet, would do a great job as president of the United States. There was not one person on the stage in Manchester, not one of the 17 that I would trust to be president of the United States or be confident if they were. So big contrast. And across the board, I thought all of them did an excellent job. Lincoln Chafee talked about, look, he's not going to be president, but he's a good guy, and he's got a great record. He was mayor. He was senator. He was governor. He's done some. I was impressed. He touted out his progressive record. He's accomplished a lot, including sponsoring and signing marriage equality legislation in Rhode Island, including voting against the Iraq War. I think 9 senators to do so. Hillary gave a great speech. She was really in good form. She had a lot of humor. She was very strongly attacked the Republican candidates and the Republican Party, and she put forth a lot of substantive issues about things that she would work on. And the crowd loved her. One of her best lines was when she talked about people accused her of playing gender politics.
If calling for equal pay and paid leave and women's health is playing the gender card, deal me in.
Yeah. She had one of the best lines of the day. She said that the party of talking about Republicans, the party of Lincoln has become the party of Trump. It's a great line. And she also talked about, she said, Donald Trump, he really didn't have anything to offer except flamboyance and hair. And she said, now a lot of people, she said, I sort of empathize with him because I know everybody talks about his hair. Well, a lot of people talk about my hair, of course, too. And she said, and everybody wants to know, is it real? So she said, the answer is, the hair is real, the color is not. Great line. People loved it. And when the laughter died down, she said, I wonder if Donald Trump could say the same. Good line. And then Martin O'Malley. Martin O'Malley stepped up, and Martin O'Malley, he was in great form. He was a big surprise for me of the day because I didn't know what to expect from Martin O'Malley. What he did, he went in there and he threw a nuclear bomb right in the middle of that hall because this is a Democratic National Committee. Sitting alongside of him, alongside the podium, is the chair of the Democratic National Committee who decided there will only be 6 debates and only 4 of them before the Iowa caucuses. And Martin O'Malley ripped them and said, this is not what the Democratic Party should be all about. Here he is.
Will we let the circus run unchallenged on every channel as we cower in the shadows under a decree of silence in the ranks? Or will we demand equal time to showcase our ideas, our solutions to America's challenges, and real leadership for real results?
And the crowd really loved him.
Seemed like they got behind him on that.
Yeah. And Bernie Sanders said he agreed 100% with Martin O'Malley. More about Bernie coming up here, but got to take a quick break. Your calls on these 4 Democratic candidates are outstanding, every one of them. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
as an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, now 27 minutes after the hour on the big Democratic debate out in, or presentation of the four candidates, wasn't really a debate, out in Minneapolis, where I was with the Democratic National Committee on Friday. And Bernie Sanders was the last one to speak, and he was in rare form, really did a great job. And Bernie Sanders' message to the Democrats was very straightforward. He said, look, Republicans didn't win in the midterm elections. Democrats lost the midterm elections. We lost the midterm elections because we didn't get people out to vote because people weren't excited. And he said, now look what I'm doing. I've got the biggest crowds ever of any candidate. I have more, this is Bernie speaking, I have more individual contributors than any other candidate, over 400,000. My average contribution is $31.20. And he says, you know, if you want to win, you got to get the crowds out. You got to get excitement. And he said, you can't do it with politics as usual.
I was going to say, it's not like he's doing this with any kind of weird political flash. He's just speaking the truth. He's putting it out there.
Yeah. And he said, same old, he said, I'll be very blunt, same old won't win. And he made the point over and over again. And when he talked to reporters later, he said, this is not anti-Hillary. This is pro-Bernie. It is pro-Democratic Party. It is pro-winning. And he said, if you want to win right down the line, White House, governors, state houses, everything across the board, you got to get voter turnout. He can do it. Nobody else can. What do you think? More calls coming up. 866-55-PRESS.
This is
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers, and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
You know, I've been at parties where, you know, I had just left the party and, you know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you know, I heard that, you know, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain, and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading.
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit
it?
everything.
Yeah, a
it's
little bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking, random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour here on a big Monday, August 31. Talking about the big summer meeting of the Democratic National Committee out in Minneapolis at the downtown Hilton Hotel on Friday, where Lincoln Chafee, Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, and Bernie Sanders addressed members of the DNC. Very, very key group because most of them, or many of them, are so-called super delegates, and the super delegates are a big voting bloc at the national convention. Again, I was talking about Bernie Sanders, and I've got to tell you, knowing the senator well, and he's been a good guest here, a frequent guest on the program, I was able to have dinner with him Thursday evening, as I mentioned, at Manny's Steakhouse in downtown Minneapolis, a block from the Hilton. We walked from the hotel to the restaurant. It took us at least a half an hour to make that walk because Bernie has become such a rock star. It was everybody we passed, they saw him and just, oh my God, Senator, can I get your picture? Can I get a picture with you? Selfies taken all the way down and to the restaurant. We walk in the restaurant, and they're showing us to our table. People look up, they see Bernie Sanders. The whole place started applauding. The whole place broke out in applause. The dining room of the restaurant. It was incredible. We
awesome.
left. We left. The wait staff all lined up. They wanted to have their picture taken with Bernie so they could put that picture up on the wall. He was very well received in the streets and in the hall and in the ballroom of the hotel as well, with his message. Which again, and he was asked yesterday on ABC News, aren't you just running against Hillary? That's an unfair question, to tell the truth. I mean, come on. First of all, she's no queen. We said this before. I love Hillary, but I was totally against this idea that there should be a coronation of Hillary and nobody else should run. I've encouraged everybody to run. I encouraged Joe Biden to run. And so that's Bernie Sanders keeps making that point. He made it.
The gains that we are seeing and the enthusiasm and the huge crowds that we are seeing, this is not anti-Hillary Clinton. This is pro-Bernie Sanders and pro a message that says enough is enough.
Yeah. He's got a winning message. That's why people are turning out for him. And he was asked on CNN yesterday morning about Martin O'Malley's criticism of the debates. And Bernie again says, I agree, we need more debates.
I think that at a time when so many of our people have given up on the political process, when 80% of young people did not vote in the last election, 63% of all Americans did not vote, I think debates are a good thing.
Yeah, damn right they're a good thing. And anything to generate turnout. Somebody told us last week here in studio, remember Peter, that I forget who it was, that the turnout among millennials is 21%.
Jeez.
Yeah. So somebody's got to excite this crowd and get them out to vote.
Yeah.
And, that's the point that Bernie is making, and he is the only one doing it today.
Yeah, I was going to say, you look at the crowds, you look at what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's a new kind of politics.
And look at the polls. Let's go back to Minneapolis. Here's John. Hey, John, what do you say?
I think his idealism is really catching on, and I think that it's not about the pragmatic, what we can do, what bones we can throw out to you ordinary people. It's about what we should do. I think that is really the key here, and I think that he will follow through with what he's saying, and you can't fake that. I think people, they believe in him. Really, more than anything. I'm a supporter. I've been from the very beginning. I went to his rally in Minneapolis in
did
May.
you? Yeah, that was a huge crowd. Yeah.
It was a huge crowd, and they changed the venue several times in the last minute, and still there were lots of people that had shown up, and he drew from a crowd that was from not just Minnesota, but from Wisconsin, Iowa. They drove in, and there were people. It was, out into the street because not everybody could get in. It wasn't big enough even then.
Well, it was interesting, John. Were you down at the Hilton on Friday?
I couldn't make it, but I would have loved to have gone down there.
Well, the reason I ask is because. So the ballroom is set up, right? So all the DNC members, those who are elected to the Democratic National Committee, they're all like the front 2/3 of the ballroom, if you will, sitting at tables, delegate all the California people together, all the Alaska people together, blah, blah, blah. And the back of the room was all just citizens from Minnesota, right? Who were like yourself, John, right? But who were able to get there. And they were enthusiastically Bernie. They were chanting, Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. It was pretty clear that they were all in Bernie's camp. Yeah. It was fun to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I got to tell you something else, by the way, about Minneapolis. So I hadn't been there in a while, but I'd read about their light rail system. And so I decided I wanted to try it. So I had just a little extra time when I arrived, and I didn't know how long it would take. But their light rail system comes right into the airport. Right into the airport. Don't have to take a shuttle bus or anything. Right? You just you walk through the airport, follow the signs, light rail, go down the escalator, you're in the terminal, and it's a 20-minute ride to downtown. It is phenomenal.
Come on.
It's a fantastic system. Yeah.
I always wonder why more cities don't have something like that.
We have that from National Airport, right? The metro's right there. But very few cities do. But this is even more convenient than the metro because it's right in the airport.
That's awesome.
Right, just under the airport. That's
awesome.
Yeah, really great.
I have shaky memories of Minneapolis because the last time I was there was for the Republican National Convention. So.
Yeah,
it was a dark
that was
time.
St. Paul.
Yeah, that was St. Paul. That was, to be fair, that's
Twin
right.
Cities.
Twin
yes.
Cities. But yeah, you're right. It was a dark time. Although the Minnesota State Fair was going on when I went, and that was a sight to behold.
Well, Unfortunate. No, the Minnesota State Fair is going on now.
Yeah.
And what's going? Remember, Amy Klobuchar last week was on the show. She invited me to come to her booth at the State Fair. I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
Didn't have time. Senator Sanders was going to go to the State Fair too. He didn't have time either. That was too bad because it was right out there by the Mall of America.
Yep.
And just to see the butter carving contest. That would have been.
That's worth it.
It would have been worth
the
it.
price of admission.
I
right
know.
there.
No. No. Yeah. It didn't get there. But you think about also Minnesota, and several speakers made this point. When you think about the representation we've had from Minnesota, Eugene McCarthy, my political hero, Walter Mondale, Hubert. Walter Mondale was there at this meeting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hubert Humphrey. Paul Wellstone.
Yeah.
And today, Amy Klobuchar and Al Franken, two great senators. David Durenberger, Republican from Minnesota, was a very progressive Republican senator. So there's something about Minnesota. They've given us a whole string of really good people. No presidents yet, I guess. A vice president, Walter Mondale.
Right.
Yeah. But anyhow, it was the big thing was seeing those 4 Democrats and listening to them. I got to tell you, it made me proud to be a Democrat. And again, what a contrast between those 4 very capable individuals and 17 clowns on the other side. Nobody has compared the Democratic field to a clown car.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And you couldn't. These are serious people. Martin O'Malley's a serious candidate. Bernie Sanders is certainly a serious candidate. Hillary Clinton, a serious candidate. And Lincoln Chafee, with more money and more visibility, would be a serious candidate.
Look, none of them are crazies or extremists or any of that stuff. They might not have as high of a profile as others.
Yeah.
But it's not because of their wacko ideas.
No, none of them are an embarrassment.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I'd be happy with any one of them. We'll talk more, and at the top of the hour too, for the next hour, about this idea of the debates, whether or not we all should be putting more pressure on the DNC to have more debates. You have to ask the question, kind of, what are they afraid of? We'll take a little time out now here to talk to Scott Bland, editor-in-chief of the National Journal Hotline, his take on the politics of the day, coming up here on this Monday edition of the Bill Press Show.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
14 minutes before the top of the hour. Yes, indeed, it is hard to keep them all straight. But we do our best on both the Republican and the Democratic side. And some interesting new poll numbers out of Iowa with us today, as we mentioned briefly at the top of the show. Scott Bland is on top of this every day for the National Journal Hotline. Great source for all your political news, whether it's state races or Senate races or House races or the White House. Editor-in-Chief Scott Bland of the Hotline on our newsline this morning. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good morning. Doing great. How are you?
Good. Doing just as well. Thank you. Let's start. These numbers from Iowa. Interesting on the Republican side, Donald Trump out in front with 23. Jeb Bush trailing way back at 6. Ben Carson in second place. What do you make of these, Scott?
Yeah, well, I think it's a continuation of a trend we've been seeing throughout the summer, right? It's not just having Trump on top of the Republican polls, but a lot of the polls have shown the people immediately following him up to be also kind of non-establishment, non-politician types. Carly Fiorina has had a bit of a bump since those first debates. Ben Carson has been up there the whole time. I know a lot of people have been expecting him to fade for months since he was first or second in a lot of the polls heading into 2015. But he's still right up there, and just kind of normal politicians can't seem to crack the top of the polls, especially in Iowa.
Well, here's the question that I have. You and I both know. I mean, Iowa, it's all about getting your supporters out to vote at those caucuses on a cold, wintry January night, right? Do Carson and Trump have a ground operation, or is this just people who see them on television and say they like them?
That's the real question, and that's one that people are really starting to ask now, especially as I think a lot of people were expecting these poll numbers to fade by this time, and so now we kind of have to move on to, well, what's next? The Washington Post a couple weeks ago had a really interesting story about how Trump really does, or at least is trying to have a ground game in Iowa. They're sending a bus around, they're signing up volunteers, and I think the thing to understand about Trump is that his media appearances are the most visible part of his campaign, but he's actually spending top dollar to hire experienced political operatives in Iowa, New Hampshire, and elsewhere, and they're trying to put a campaign together as best they can, and so that's a real thing. Ben Carson, and he's had some kind of internal trouble with his campaign over the year, but the fact remains that they have, I think, so many more donors than anyone else, just because the number of people giving very small amounts to the super PACs that have formed to back him and now his actual campaign. Carson has actually raised, he's in the top 4 in terms of money raised by a Republican presidential candidate for the campaign side so far, and that money's coming from somewhere, so they've got a pretty big list of supporters too.
On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton 37, Bernie Sanders now 30. Hillary keeps going down, Bernie keeps coming up.
Yep, and I thought another interesting thing about that poll was that it showed if Vice President Biden is included in the ballot test, he takes pretty much equally from Sanders and Clinton, which is interesting because I think people had talked about whether or not a potential Biden run would just split the kind of anti-Clinton vote that's kind of latent in the primary at this point. But I guess the other interesting aspect about this poll is that Ann Seltzer is highly respected, the pollster in Iowa, kind of nails the results again and again. But this is very different from the previous kind of gold standard poll that we just saw in Iowa, which showed Clinton at above 50% and Sanders hovering around 20, I think. And so someone isn't quite doing this right now.
Yeah, in other words, disparity there.
Just a wee disparity.
Yeah, right. Who knows? I guess you don't know until the caucuses actually happen. On the debate front, I was in Minneapolis Friday. We've been talking about this, and Martin O'Malley really shook him up by blasting the DNC for limiting the number of debates. Do you think, and Bernie Sanders agrees with him, do you think they're going to be able to turn that around and maybe open it up and have more Democratic debates?
That's an interesting question. I don't really know what the answer to that is. I also don't know the extent to which kind of like this process argument is really going to necessarily galvanize people, which O'Malley has been trying to do for a while and hasn't really worked out for him. I believe he was at 3% in this most recent poll that we were just talking about. But you have to figure. I mean, the longer he kind of hangs around, Sanders surges and Biden considers getting in and so on, the longer it becomes possible that O'Malley has a little moment of his own. And certainly the opportunity to stand on a stage with the frontrunner, Hillary Clinton, and other kind of surging contenders and Bernie Sanders would give him, more opportunities to experience that moment.
Yeah, as he said, he told us in his press briefing after his speech that he was asked whether the first question was, do you think the system is rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton? And his answer was, yes, I do. Don't you? And I think it's clear. It certainly, it's to Hillary Clinton's advantage to have fewer debates. It's to Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders to their advantage, and Lincoln Chafee to have more debates. No doubt about it.
Sure. I guess the question at that point comes, at what number is the appropriate? Right. Did O'Malley outline the number he actually wants, or I have a feeling that no matter what number had been announced, he might have said they were too few.
Well, put it this way: more than 4, because there would be 4 before the Iowa caucuses. A total of 6. Which I think is not quite enough. And we're going to talk about that more at the top of the next hour here on the Bill Press Show. And Scott, we thank you again for joining us this morning. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
At the National Journal Hotline, nationaljournal.com.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yeah, what about that question of debates? Do you think we need more debates? So we'll talk about that at the top of the next hour. Peter.
Mount McKinley.
Yes.
Not going to be known as Mount McKinley for much longer.
No more.
President Obama announced yesterday that he's using his executive power to rename it Denali. Denali. That is the original name, by the way. That's what Alaska natives
The Native American name for the mountain was
many years
Denali.
ago. It's the tallest mountain in North America. We call it Mount McKinley, but it will be known as Denali. This comes ahead of President Obama's trip to Alaska. So, big news there.
I know. It's been McKinley for 100 years.
Yeah.
I forget, somebody gave it that name, but, right after McKinley was elected president. It's crazy. It's great that it's back at Denali. And I was going to climb it, but I wouldn't climb it under the name McKinley.
Now that they changed it.
Now that they changed the name, I think I'm going to. This is your moment. Yeah, right. I just have to make a plan here. So see if I can squeeze it in before the end of the year. Maybe before Labor Day.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. You use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
President Obama off to Alaska today, not to scale Mount McKinley, but to rename it, or give it back its original name, Mount Denali. Hello, everybody. It is the last day of August. Can you believe it? And this is the Bill Press Show. We are here in Washington, D.C., kind of a ghost town. Everybody out of town. And the president leaving town again today. But we're here to keep track of what's going on in Washington, of what's going on around the country, around the globe, bringing you the news and talking about it with you on your local progressive talk radio station, with you on Free Speech TV, and with you on our video stream worldwide, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Sabrina Siddiqui for sitting in on Friday while I was out in Minneapolis with the Democratic and National Committee. Now we're all back together again. Well, almost all of us. Elisa Murphy taken off for a new job, so we now have this. So the new team looks like this, at least for now.
Here we go.
Peter Hogburn, still here, leading up the team, with Jamie Benson moving up to the assistant producer board op role. Yes.
Good morning. All trades,
I'll take it.
None.
Whatever it is, got through 1 hour. Pretty well.
2 to go.
Let's 1 hour.
See where this goes.
Plenty of time to screw this up, Jamie.
Still lots of time. Ray Rogers has stepped back in again. She's been with us before. She's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Clinton Boulding on the job as our videographer. Never makes a mistake.
No.
Yeah, you can count on Cyprian on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Looking good because of Cyprian's good work. And, you know, when you're a broadcaster and you're on live TV, you always got to be careful. You know, you always got to things can happen during those live shots.
Sure.
As Brad Wills discovered, he's with Fox 5 out in San Diego doing a live shot from the beach when a certain bug or wasp or bee,
I'm not sure
or
what it was, but
something.
it's a big bug. It's a giant bug flying around his head.
Comes around, all right? So, and of course, he doesn't react at all.
What is that? That's because it's hot outside. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
Was that live? Are we live? Oh, brother.
Oh. Yeah, right.
I don't see why did he have to justify it? No, it's hot weather. That's why the big bugs are out.
Yeah, well, no, it's a giant bug.
You would think he'd have a little more self-control. I don't know. But it reminded us, it could happen out in the field. It can happen in the studio. A few years ago, down in Florida, with Channel 6 somewhere in Florida, and the young weatherman was giving his report. Remember, and it was like a cockroach.
It was a cockroach.
It was a cockroach. Suddenly, he looked down, and there's he's giving the weather report. I'll talk about maintaining self-control. This guy, here he is.
Oh my God! This is what just happened. That thing was crawling on my leg. Oh God! Oh my God!
Oh, man. Oh, that's so good.
That is so funny. Oh, man. I think that poor guy doesn't have a job anymore.
Oh, man.
Or maybe he's
It was crawling on my leg.
Oh my God! I think maybe he's working for a Terminator now or something. I don't think he's giving weather reports anymore.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh, God.
Oh boy, television. See, it's a dangerous business. We got reporters in from Huffington Post, yes, from ThinkProgress, and from RH Reality Check today. And do we need more debates in the Democratic primary? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. If you are in northern New York and you have a 100-pound, 64-inch long missile that says U.S. Army painted on the side, the government would like to speak with you. Here's the story. So a helicopter went out on a training mission on Friday, and they carry dummy missiles with them. They're not explosives. They can't hurt anything other than, just falling and causing damage. And one of them fell off of the helicopter somewhere in New York. They don't know where. And they haven't found it yet. It was at the air show at Fort Drum. Again, it's 100 pounds, 64-inch long missile. It simulates the weight and appearance of an actual Hellfire missile that they use for training. They haven't found it yet. They say it has U.S. Army painted on the side, and if you have it or know someone who has seen it, they want you to call the Fort Drum 10th Mountain Division Operations Center at 315-772-6324. They have put out the word that they can't find it.
Good luck getting that back, man.
I would check pawn shops in and around northern New York.
Mm-hmm.
If you found that, hang on to it. Chicago, Illinois, they are trying out a very interesting idea inside of the Target store near Chicago's Navy Pier. It is going to become the first Target store in the nation to serve beer inside of the store.
Really?
Yes, you can go in and they're going to have a little mini bar. They've applied for a liquor license, and they say that you could go in, you could buy a beer, walk around the store, do your shopping while you drink. Not a bad idea, right?
No.
Yeah. You can do that at the Giant, one of the Giants here in D.C. I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, really?
But it's, there's a cup holder in the grocery carts now.
Oh, that's great.
For the beer.
I've been to one in Ohio where you can drink and shop. And it's a great experience. You get a beer and you just walk around and do your shopping. By the way, this is the first time in history, according to the National Hurricane Center, we have 3 major hurricanes simultaneously happening in the Pacific East.
Yeah, in the Pacific.
Yeah, in the Pacific.
Right.
In the Pacific.
Yeah.
Kilo, Ignacio, and Jimena, all 3 are going on right now east of the international date line of the Pacific Ocean. It's the first time that's ever happened. So, end times, man. Be careful out there.
Of course, global warming has nothing to do with it.
No, of course not.
Right.
Couldn't possibly be that.
So the big issue that came up in Minneapolis, I mentioned in the last hour, but we didn't have a chance to take calls about it, is this question of debates. The Republicans have 12 debates. They've announced 12 debates. And we've already had one of them, and the next one comes up the 16th, I believe it is, of September. Democrats, on the other hand, have said, no, we're not going to have that many debates. We're only going to have a total of 6. Half as many debates, and we're only going to have 4 before Iowa. Now, look, the way debates work in campaigns, it's always the same. If you're the incumbent, if you're the front runner, you don't want debates because you don't want your opponents to get any exposure, right? You want all the advantages that you can get. On the other hand, if you're a contender, if you're a long shot, if you're a new person, new guy or gal running, and you're trying to get and grow and get more exposure, you want as many debates as you can. So, that's always the dynamic of it. But in this case, it does look like that the DNC has rigged the debate system to favor Hillary Clinton. by going only with 4 debates. So at the DNC meeting, the Democratic National Committee are the ones that adopted this rule. They're the ones that decide. And the chair of the Democratic Party, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, good friend of ours, good friend of the program, she's the one who made this decision. So the DNC invites the Democratic candidates to speak on Friday in Minneapolis. Again, I was there. And Martin O'Malley stood up, and when he got his chance, he devoted his entire speech to ripping the DNC apart. He reamed them a new you-know-what for limiting the debates. And he said, the Republicans are out there making all these wild charges and attacking Obama and attacking everything Democrats stand for. And he said, and what is our response? Crickets. Our response is silence. He stunned the DNC with his message. But he also won them over because he pointed out, we got to be out there. He says, we got to be out there making our case. Here he is at the DNC on Friday.
Will we let the circus run unchallenged on every channel as we cower in the shadows under a decree of silence in the ranks? Or will we demand equal time to showcase our ideas, our solutions to America's challenges, and real leadership for real results?
And I thought he turned that crowd around against the leadership of the DNC who adopted this role. He told us, he met with reporters afterwards, and here's what he told us why we need debates.
We need to have debates so we can talk about the most important issues in this campaign, and that is how we get the middle class to grow, how we give our kids more opportunities rather than less.
The first question he got asked at that little press conference was by a reporter said, do you think the debate system is rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton? And he said, yes. Don't you? Pretty direct answer. Bernie Sanders was on a couple of Sunday morning shows yesterday. State of the by the way, at his news conference in Minneapolis, after his speech, he was asked about the debates, and he said he agreed with Martin O'Malley. Totally agreed with Martin O'Malley. He made that point yesterday on CNN's State of the Union.
I think that at a time when so many of our people have given up on the political process, when 80% of young people did not vote in the last election, 63% of all Americans did not vote, I think debates are a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're both right. Absolutely right. We need more. Look, you don't need 25 debates like the Republicans had last time. Yeah. But certainly, we got 4 outstanding candidates, 5 if you count Jim Webb. Joe Biden gets in, who knows? I think the more we see these people, the better. At least let's have as many as the Republicans have. Let's start from there. Not 25, but how about 12?
Yeah. It is a little shaky when you have 2 out of the top 3 on the Democratic side who are both calling for more debates.
Yeah.
And there's that one glaring dissent of Hillary Clinton who hasn't really spoken on it.
Yeah. So what do you think? As Democrats, fellow Democrats, do we need more debates? Should we have more debates? 866-55-PRESS. Should we join Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders in calling for more debates? William, down in Baton Rouge. Hello, William. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. More debates. Definitely more debates.
Why do you think they're important?
Oh, well, we need to hear the voices of somebody else. And like you said, exactly what you said. I believe that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is doing this just for Hillary. And you can't hear Bernie and you can't hear Mark O'Malley.
Yeah, and we should hear them. They've got a lot to offer, I think. Hey, William, thanks so much for the call. Good to hear from you. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about, is it time for the DNC to schedule, and why not schedule more debates? You know what? I got to tell you, we had a debate among those 4 candidates that I saw on Friday. I can tell you one thing. They would all hold their own. They would all be substantive. We could be proud of every one of them. And it would be a very robust, solid debate on the issues, no personal attacks, like we saw from Donald Trump just attacking everybody else on the stage, right? It'd be a solid debate on the issues. And I think it would be great for the Democratic Party. And if it ends up helping Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders or Lincoln Chafee over Hillary Clinton, so be it. But, If I were the Hillary camp, I wouldn't worry about debates. She can more than hold her own.
Of course she can. That's the thing that's so weird.
She's a real pro.
That's what's so weird about her with the debates and with the not talking to reporters as much as she should. Is she can be really good on this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you put her in front of a crowd and in front of other candidates, she would do just fine.
They have nothing. The Hillary camp has nothing to worry about. I say Bernie Sanders is right. Martin O'Malley is right. More debates, more debates, more debates. What say you? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 25 minutes after the hour. Alan Pike from ThinkProgress will be joining us at the half hour right now. We're talking about the call for more debates among Democratic candidates for president. That call challenge issued by Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders, challenging the leadership of the DNC, which have limited the number of debates to a total of 6. Only one of them in New Hampshire, and only 4 of them before the Iowa caucuses. Peter?
Got a couple comments on Twitter, at BP Show. Holly Tooker says Debbie Wasserman Schultz also blocked a vote in support of the Iran deal. Let's not forget that she's wrong on a couple of issues. Also, Jeff Jones says more dim debates is...
If I could just...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they did not. Right. They did not vote on the Iran, in support of the Iran deal at the DNC, which I thought was a cowardly thing to do. Not to do it was cowardly. They did, led by Christine Pelosi, by the way, from California. There was a letter circulated among the delegates, as opposed to a resolution, which the overwhelming majority of people there did sign that letter.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
They did that sort of in defiance of the DNC leadership.
That's interesting. Also, Jeff Jones weighed in, said more dim debates is free press, yes, but more opportunities for the GOP to distort positions and more time for voters to tune out. So he's not necessarily in favor of more debate.
Cindy calling from, I disagree, Cindy calling from Phoenix. What do you think, Cindy?
Well, isn't it the ones that the people that talk the loudest win? Haven't we lost elections in the past to Democrats because we didn't speak up, we didn't step up, we didn't answer their charges? And I agree, Hillary speaks beautifully.
Yeah.
So, and I love Bernie. He's my number one guy.
But that's the argument you're making is Cindy, is the argument that Martin O'Malley made, is that when the airwaves today, if they have, with all their debates, right? These 17 Republicans, and all the wild charges they're making and everything, and then we don't have forums where our candidates can answer them and get that national attention. We're sort of giving them, a huge advantage, right? And American people are not hearing the Democratic arguments. So that's the strongest argument, I think, for more debates. Plus, give them all an opportunity. I'd like to see more of Martin O'Malley.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more from Martin O'Malley. I'd love to see Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, go mano a mano on the issues of the day. Yeah, it'd be great. And again, it would not be personal. It would not be ugly. It would be very substantive, and I think we would learn a lot. So, pro-democracy, pro-winning, that means more debates for the Democrats. I hope we can win that argument.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, and just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
And bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Hi, this is Bernie Sanders. I just want to congratulate Bill Press for 10 years of great radio. Bill, the progressive community needs your voice, and thank you so much for all that you're doing. Take care.
Senator Bernie Sanders chiming in on our 10th anniversary. Thank you, Senator. Yes, the progressive community needs your voice as well, and your voice is certainly out there in this 2016 presidential campaign, as I saw for myself Friday in Minneapolis. Hello, everybody. 33 minutes after the hour now. The Bill Press Show on this Monday, August 31. Again, great to see you today. We have been talking about the call for more debates on the Democratic side, a call issued and a challenge issued to the DNC by Martin O'Malley on Friday at the DNC meeting out in Minneapolis, a call echoed by Bernie Sanders as well. Before we move on, just one more call from our listener base out there in Elyria, Ohio. Is that right? I hope I pronounced it right.
You got it.
Jim, what do you think? More debates, yes or no?
Oh, absolutely, Bill. I think we need debates to see where the candidates stand on the issues, and so they can stop backpedaling on the questions they're asked like Hillary does. Because Democrats, just like Republicans, we're only going to vote for a leader that shows some strength and truth in the ideas they want to perpetuate.
You know, and to me, too, you've got four, again, I'm discounting Jim Webb, who didn't even show up at the DNC, but you got four there who are really credible candidates. Link Chafee doesn't have all the resources the others do, but certainly Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley. But four very credible people. I think we're shortchanging ourselves by not giving them more of a chance to talk about their ideas. get them out there, get some national exposure, and let the American people see who they are and what they stand for. So I think the Democratic National Committee made a mistake by limiting the number of debates to 6. I mean, Republicans have 12 debates. We could have just as many as that. So let's leave that question aside for just a second to talk about certainly one of the big issues in any campaign for any office is the economy. How's the economy doing, and how's that impact the political process this year? On both sides, Alan Pike is the Deputy Economic Policy Editor for ThinkProgress, and he joins us in studio this morning. Hello, Alan. How are you?
Pretty well, Bill. How are you?
All right. How's Igor behaving these days?
Pretty well. He sits off to my right. He's kind of right in my peripheral, so I gotta turn my head just a little bit to keep tabs now. Well, so I can't vouch 100%, but I believe he's behaving himself. He's working on our video project. They're putting out a bunch of pretty cool stuff. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have.
They got a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. I mean, how could I miss that? Igor sends them,
I'm sure he does
religiously, right? But yeah, I just want to be sure that somebody over there is keeping track of Igor Volsky, because
he's working with a woman named Victoria who does a lot of the camera work and helps build those videos out with him, and I'm pretty sure she's keeping a pretty steady hand on the tiller, as it were.
I forgot to tell you, when you were out a couple weeks ago and Igor came in, I had my dog with me. Igor tried to steal my dog. He loved my dog Weebay so much he tried to he wanted to walk out of here with
I caught him walking out. We got him at the door.
Had to catch him
but he just got a new dog, Sasha.
Well, but Weebay is a better name for a dog, so you can understand why you'd want to steal the dog name for a character from The Wire.
Well, again, Alan, a lot of people say veterans say there's really campaigns come and go, but there's really only one issue in every campaign that's the most important, which is the economy. And if people feel good about the economy, they'll come out and vote,
right?
And they'll vote for the incumbent party usually, or the party in power. If they don't, they'll throw the rascals out. So,
right.
If you accept that premise, how's the economy today? Who's it favored?
Well, like you said, it's about how people feel about the economy,
right,
which can be pretty different from the reality.
Good point. Yeah,
and I think the perception these days is that regular folks are struggling to achieve the kind of economic security that hard work, sweat used to provide in this country. Whether or not that nostalgia is accurate or deficient in some way, that's the perception, I think, and that's the dynamic that this campaign is going to start to play out underneath. And I don't know who that's going to really serve well politically, since I don't think any of these candidates on either side has particularly expressed a comprehensive approach to fixing that kind of sense, that raw sense in people's minds that something's broken. But we're starting to see a more interesting mix of ideas about how to approach that problem than we have in past elections. I think a broader spectrum, ideologically speaking, of proposed solutions.
So what you're saying is that the economy, or are you saying that the economy is better than people perceive it to be or think it to be?
I think we have this whole set of statistics and data and indicators that people who generally make a living in expensive suits talking on TV about how the economy is doing can point to and say, we've had quite impressive job growth.
The
Obama tenure
has
been
good.
Right, exactly.
Is good. Right.
Yeah. And there's numbers and there's hard data and there's sort of firmness to those things. But so many of the jobs that we have created in this last 5-6 years since the recovery really started to get off the ground have been low-wage jobs, low-security jobs where people's schedules can get yanked around kind of a lot of part-time work that people would rather be working full-time. So hiding underneath those top-line indicators, there's explanations for why people don't feel secure or positioned to take advantage of whatever growth there is going on. Yeah. And I think the thing that you're starting to see emerge gradually, and this will happen more over the next year or so, I'm pretty sure, but the central tension between the Bernie Sanders and to some extent Donald Trump, kind of the people who are kicking at the walls of the establishment party politics of a presidential cycle, the tension between those folks and people more in the mainstream of their party's ideology is starting to be a dispute about whether or not we just need to grow faster and everything will be fine, or is there something structurally wrong with how the rewards of American capitalism are apportioned and how economic security and work and hard work are linked or not linked. And I think that's where you're starting to see Sanders and Trump kind of upset some pretensions on either side of the aisle.
Right. I mean, and Bernie very clearly, and in his speech Friday to the DNC, he continued this theme of taking on Wall Street. I mean, he said that banks that are too big to fail are too big to exist.
Absolutely.
Right? And there is an anti-Wall Street streak out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think last Monday everybody woke up to the markets being down 1,100 points or whatever by 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
And still by the end of the week, those same markets in the U.S. at least were up for the week on net. The chaos, the volatility that we see and we hear about on the news, which for most of us is deeply removed from our own lives and hard to understand and sort of scary. I think that stuff kind of crystallizes these baseline frustrations about the unfairness of the economy and this structural tendency to have our politicians respond primarily to the wealthy and the powerful and neglect thereby the interests of working folks.
Right.
And
so it seems to me that the Democrats are going to be able to say, are going to run on, okay, look, when we took over in 2009, we were hemorrhaging jobs and debt and all that in this huge, biggest, as they say, financial crisis since the Great Depression. And look how far we've come back. And President Obama brought us back, and boom, 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 and here we are today. And the economy is pretty solid. Still got ways to go, but really solid recovery. And the Republicans are going to say, we're going to hell in a handbasket again. Obama screwed everything up, right? Which one is more accurate and which one wins?
I mean, I think it's true that the president took over. He liked to use the image of, when I got here, the car was already in the ditch and the radiator was leaking and all that stuff.
We're not going to give the Republicans the keys of the
right,
car.
Right. I think I wonder if he ever cracked 10 minutes on that metaphor. He really got into that one, and that's absolutely true, right? That's a fact that he took over at a time when things had been going on for 30 years with regard to deregulation of our financial industry, the increasing financialization of just about every facet of our economy, the fact that you can, by the early 2000s, it was possible to essentially wager on the future value of just about anything, regardless of whether or not you actually owned it or even knew anybody who owned it. And everything gets really, really leveraged really fast, and the bottom falls out. And since then, there's been really impressive, genuinely commendable growth in employment. And at the same time, there's been complete stagnation in the quality of life that you earn by having a job. The wages are completely flat, despite the fact that worker productivity, measures of how much work we're actually doing in a given hour of a given day, worker productivity was up 25% from 2000 to 2012. Wages grew exactly 0% in that same time. Again, the feedback loop between hard work and being able to provide security for yourself and your family and a better life, hopefully, for your progeny, that feedback loop is broken. And I think that's going to be where the ultimate focus of the economic part of our presidential debate over this next year and a half is going to end up being, because that's the real contrast between Sanders and Clinton. I just have to say, given that reality, I can see a Bernie Sanders taking advantage of that and stressing that, right? So now we have to really focus on helping the middle class and helping these people left behind in this economic recovery. It seems to me it's hard for Republicans to make that argument because they've consistently voted against anything that would help the middle class. Yeah, I mean, it's a party that's been dominated for 20, 30, 40 years by supply-side thinking about how to provide prosperity. And that thinking's been proven to be erroneous or incomplete at best over the last 20, 30 years. And because of the financialization of our economy, and because we're getting shorter and shorter windows between these busts, shorter booms, deeper busts when they happen, the consequences of those downturns are hitting people who were still waiting for the trickle down part to happen from the Reagan years, right? And part of what's so interesting to me about the debate within the Democratic primary, even if the field is so much smaller, is that seems to me to be the central contrast between Sanders and Clinton. Is it's not commie Bernie and Wall Street Hillary. It's not that simple. But Hillary Clinton believes that you lure businesses in to do virtuous things in their own interest, and Sanders believes you got to kind of crack them on the head of it.
Yeah, that's why we need more. That's another reason why we need more debates to bring those differences out. Alan Pike is with us talking economy and politics, the key issue here in any campaign. He's Deputy Economic Policy Editor for ThinkProgress. Give us a call. Join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Maybe not as loud as Donald Trump, but he's a hell of a lot smarter. This is your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election, The Bill Press Show.
I'm not sure being called smarter than Donald Trump is a great achievement.
I've also heard you get about as loud as Donald Trump, so I don't know.
I have better hair. 11 minutes before the top of the hour, here we are on this Monday edition of the Bill Press Show, last day of August 2015. How about it? Alan Pike joins us from the great ThinkProgress, part of the Center for American Progress, of course, and you can follow their good work at thinkprogress.org, talking economic issues and the 2016 political front, particularly on the Democratic side, is where it's interesting because you do have a big difference between former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Senator Bernie Sanders. And that issue, I guess, is Hillary is always going to be known as the senator from Wall Street, isn't she?
I think she's going to have a hard time escaping that, and I think that it's a legitimate identifier to some extent. She seems to really genuinely believe that the best way to incur participation in the public good from the private sector is, give them tax incentives. She gave a speech a while before announcing about a Goldman Sachs idea called social impact bonds, basically hedge funds and Wall Street banks funding good works, nonprofits, NGOs, and getting a payout if that NGO project pans out. So they might lend an organization in Boston a couple $1 million to do some gang violence mitigation work or some recidivism outreach to newly released, formerly incarcerated people. And if the recidivism rate actually goes down, or if crime actually goes down, then their bond pays out. And it's a way of financializing doing well, doing good. It's making doing good into something that can also be doing well for yourself. And that's an interesting idea. It makes plenty of logical sense, but it's really out of step with how we traditionally think of the divide between the public interest and the private profit motive. And Hillary's really committed to trying to find ways to bring those into line with one another. And Sanders takes obviously a much more direct route, saying well, we should tax people who have this amount of money more and spend that money directly ourselves on doing the things that we think will produce the society we want to have.
What about the job issue? Job creation, new jobs, unemployment. Is that, unemployment is pretty low now, down around 5%. So that's going to be, is it the number of people working or more how much money they're making?
It's more going to be about earnings and wages for sure. I also think that those unemployment numbers are a little soft in the sense that they conceal, again, a lot of people working part-time. Bernie does
talk about the real unemployment number.
And that's been around for, I'm sure people who listen to your show have been hearing for decades and decades about how the official stats are not the real stats and talk shadow unemployment. And I don't myself get too deep into that world because I think that, any of those numbers, as long as you understand what they're really saying, can tell you useful information. But the thing that the top line unemployment figure definitely conceals is both the number of people who are working part-time when they'd rather be working full-time, which is a pretty good indicator of a poor labor market, a labor market that's not serving people's interests very well. And it also conceals how many people have given up looking for work, because you're only measuring in that top-line number people who meet a certain criteria for job-seeking activity. And plenty of people in this economy and in this recovery had spent a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years looking for work actively before finally just giving up because they were having no success at all at finding something that would meaningfully support their lives, help them pay their mortgage, pay their rent.
Right. And just circling back to where we started this hour, talking about all the difference between the candidates on these issues, I haven't even mentioned Martin O'Malley, are issues I believe that can only come out if we have full and robust debate, and lots of them, certainly more than 4 among our Democratic candidates. Very, very important stuff, Alan. Thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Absolutely. It's
and
a pleasure.
For your good work over at ThinkProgress. We'll see you again.
Absolutely.
And keep your eye on Igor now.
I will. I'll tell him you said hi.
He'll be in tomorrow morning, and I'll come back and tell you what's on the president's schedule today, heading to Alaska. We'll tell you all about it when we come back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 2 hours, never enough to cover all the news of the day. We got to keep it going, and we move into hour number 3 Or remember, those of you on Free Speech TV, you can watch us hour number 3, but not until 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. If you want to watch right away, stay with us on TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. Reporters coming up in the next hour in studio from Huffington Post and from RH Reality Check. Exciting third hour coming up. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, now President Obama heading off to Alaska, 3-day visit to Alaska starting today. Leaves the White House about 9:25. Long flight out to Alaska. And once he arrives, he will be participating at a roundtable with Alaska natives. And then he goes off to address a conference on climate change. Get this, the group is the Global Leadership in the Arctic, Cooperation, Innovation, Engagement, and Resilience. And the acronym is appropriately GLACIER. That's what it stands for. So he's going to be addressing the Glacial Conference this afternoon. And Josh Earnest will be gagging with reporters on Air Force One.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama heads off to Alaska this morning, not to climb Mount McKinley, but to rename it, or to give it its own original name, Mount Denali. What do you say? Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Happy Monday, August 31. Last day of August 2015. We got a lot to talk about here on the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We are here with you on your local progressive talk radio station. We are here with you on the radio apps TuneIn or iHeartRadio. Download them, and you can follow us on radio wherever you travel in this great land of ours. We are here with you on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. So can't escape us, and we don't want you to. We want to hear from you, actually, on what you think about the issues of the day. All the big questions revolving around particularly the Democratic and Republican primaries for 2016 and whether or not there should be Democrats should allow more debates than they have. That was a big issue that came up at the DNC meeting over the weekend. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn here leading up Team Press this morning.
Hello,
Peter.
Bill. Happy
Thank
Monday.
you. Just change of team. Lisa Murphy left for another position. So Jamie Benson has stepped up to the task. And 2 out of 3 hours so far without any...
Just setting me up for failure here in the third hour. Good morning.
Can he make it through day one?
Stay tuned, America.
Stay tuned, America.
Oh, man.
Hi, Jamie. And Ray Rogers, she has stepped back in to join us. To stream our calls and your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Hi, Ray. Welcome. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, always on the job and keeping us looking good on Free Speech and TawkrTV. Well, what do you think about immigrants, right? You can think of them different ways. Donald Trump wants to deport them all. Chris Christie thinks of them as packages. They're like packages. They're like you wrap something up and send it on FedEx. That's who immigrants are. That's one way of thinking of them, right?
That's one way. That's for sure.
I'm not making it up. That's what he said over the week up in New Hampshire. He was at a little event up there, and he said, "So, what about this problem with immigration?" Well, he said, first thing, I've got to call on the head of FedEx to help me out.
We let people come to this country with visas, and the minute they come in, we lose track of them. We can't. So here's what I'm going to do as president. I'm going to ask Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, come work for the government for 3 months.
Yeah. Come work for the government for 3 months. And he says, so then with Fred Smith from FedEx, we'll just track these people.
We need to have a system that tracks you from the moment you come in, and then when your time is up, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, however long your visa is, then we go get you and tap you on the shoulder and say, excuse me, Thanks for coming. Time to go.
That is just so weird.
Maybe they'll put like bars down their arm or something, right? So they can just
scan them.
Scan them. Boop. Yeah, scan them. Right. So then Christie,
that's just a weird idea.
So yesterday he was saying on Fox, no, I didn't mean treat people like packages. Well, what?
What else do you mean?
If you're talking FedEx, and you're talking tracking them, what does FedEx do? Track packages. Right?
That adds up. That adds up to me.
You know, I'd be surprised. I forget now. I think Mitt Romney got like 21% of the Latino vote. Any Republican candidate this year, they're probably going to get minus, 5 or something.
You'd think they
would. I don't know
learn.
how they get. They just keep every time they turn around. Every single one of them alienates the Latino community.
Worse than the last.
Yeah. They have to think of what's the worst thing I can say about immigrants, and that's what I'm going to say today. There they go. Chris Christie, just the latest. Yes, indeed. So we got a reporter from Dana Liebelson, right? Is that right?
Dana Liebelson.
Dana Liebelson from Huffington Post joining us a little bit later. I want to tell you all about the DNC meeting out in Minneapolis on Friday. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. American Pharoah raced over the weekend, Bill, at the Travers Stakes at Saratoga Racecourse.
I know. Right.
American Pharoah did not win that race. The winner was Keen Ice. Overtook American Pharoah down the stretch and ended up winning by 3/4 of a length. American Pharoah did come in second place, so good for the horse there. American Pharoah had won 8 consecutive races going into this race. He was the 1-5 favorite to win his 9th in a row, but that did not happen. A sold-out crowd at Saratoga, 50,000 people in attendance for that race.
But you know, they call Saratoga the graveyard because this is the race where the favorite doesn't always win. But I mean, you win the Triple Crown, that's...
What does it matter? Doesn't matter.
I mean, I think they're being unfair to American Pharoah.
Oh, look, no, this doesn't tarnish American Pharoah at all. I don't think.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, right? Because I didn't think that American Pharoah was going to race again after winning the Triple Crown. And this was his second race since winning the Triple Crown.
But his owner said he was going to continue to race him. Yeah. So
he's still a very, very valuable horse. We'll put it that way. New study by the journal Pediatrics reports that as high as 60% of high school college students binge drink. Not necessarily on a regular basis, but they suggest that parents should start talking to their children about alcohol at the age of 9 years old. At least putting it on their radar and saying, this is what it does, this is what it can do to you, these are the bad things that can come from drinking too much alcohol. Again, among 12 to 14-year-olds who drink, approximately half of those binge drink. So the numbers are pretty high. There are 12 to 14-year-olds. This is aside from the high school age students.
Yeah.
Aside from those, the 12 to 14-year-old students who are binge drinking.
That's scary.
I'm trying to think of the time I had my first sip of alcohol.
Do we got to play this game?
I don't think I'm going to play this game.
Okay.
I don't think I should play
I'm not going to then.
I definitely don't think I'm
I got to tell you, in the Press family, it was before, I was probably still crawling when I had my first alcohol.
And the University of British Columbia is about to start the first, most comprehensive study on marijuana. It's the first large-scale genetic study of marijuana and hemp. They want to get a clearer picture of the evolutionary history and genetic organization of cannabis. They want to find out where it came from, how it grows, and really take a look at the structure and the genes of cannabis. Jonathan Page is the man who's leading this. He's a botanist at the University of British Columbia. He says, quote, even though hemp and marijuana are important crops, knowledge about cannabis is lacking because of its status as a controlled drug. So because of all these years that it's been so outlawed, it's been hard to actually take a look at it. So we'll take a look at that study and keep eyes on it, and we'll report the findings when we can.
All right. Find out. Yeah. Where it came from. I don't even know. Was it imported from Africa, Latin America?
Yeah, right.
Who knows?
Right.
No idea. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. First of all, before we tell you about Minneapolis, the latest polls, this all relates here. A very interesting latest poll from Iowa shows things a little bit tighter than we thought, certainly on the Democratic side. First, on the Republican side, yes, indeed, they said he was going to disappear by now. Hasn't happened. Donald Trump, solid lead in Iowa among Republicans with 23%. He's the big outsider, but the second outsider, Ben Carson, is actually in second place, which says a lot about the mood of the electorate, I think, this year. Trump at 23, Carson at 18, and then, surprisingly, way, way back, all the others. Tied at only 8%, Scott Walker, who at one time was considered the runaway favorite in Iowa, Scott Walker down at 8%, tied with Ted Cruz, but even more embarrassing, Jeb Bush only at 6%, tied with Marco Rubio, the boy wonder, at 6% in Iowa. So it is Trump's to lose in Iowa right now. And on the Democratic side, really, really exciting news for Bernie Sanders. He is now closed within single digits of Hillary Clinton. She still has the lead, 37%, but Bernie Sanders now up at 30%. So you say, oh, well, Hillary's 7 points ahead of Bernie, so, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is just a couple of months ago, it was 57 for Hillary and 16 for Bernie. So she's been plummeting like a rock, and he's been just moving up and moving up. In that same poll, were he to get in today, Joe Biden would have 14%. And as Scott Bland told us a little bit earlier from the hotline, he takes from both Hillary and from Bernie, more from Hillary than from Bernie, but draws from both of them. So it's getting very, very close there. And so I was out in Minneapolis Friday while Sabrina Siddiqui was here with all of you at the summer meeting of the Democratic National Committee, where all the Democratic candidates were invited to speak. 4 out of 5 accepted. Jim Webb declined. He said he had to take his daughter to college this weekend, so he had more important things to do. Yeah. Go figure how serious he is. But I got to tell you, it was really good to see the 4 of them in action. And my first takeaway from that meeting was the contrast between 4 credible, outstanding, qualified, serious candidates and 17 clowns on the other side. I mean, the contrast could not be more stark. Any one of those 4 Democratic candidates would make a great, credible president of the United States, not one of the Republican 17, as far as I'm concerned. And having seen them up close. And I have to tell you, each of the 4 did well. Lincoln Chafee talked about his record as mayor, as senator, as governor. He's built up a very impressive record, taken a very impressive and progressive record on his votes. Voted against the Iraq War, signed marriage equality legislation as governor of Rhode Island. Hillary Clinton did a great job. She really was good. She was feisty. She was funny. She was substantive, serious. Crowd loved her, and she had some great lines. She said she's been accused of playing the gender card.
If calling for equal pay and paid leave and women's health is playing the gender card, deal me in.
And she also said the party was, sadly today, the party of Lincoln has become the party of Trump, which I thought was a great line.
And that's one of the things that we've been saying this whole time with Trump, going way back before this election, right? When you saw Mitt Romney going out and groveling to Donald Trump to get his endorsement, and Donald Trump, who continued before this election to dip his toe into national politics. The Republican Party should have pushed him aside a long time ago, and now look at what's happened.
Now he is the face of the Republican Party. Martin O'Malley was a big surprise for me at the DNC because he gave such a passionate speech and such a ballsy speech, if I can use that word on the radio, where he went right into the lion's den, into the DNC, where they had decided, party officials voted that they're going to limit the number of debates to just 4 debates before Iowa, only a total of 6, while the Republicans have 12 debates and Democrats only 6, but only 4 before Iowa. And Martin O'Malley said, this is not fair, and we're being chicken by not getting out there and responding to what the all these wild charges the Republicans are making. He said, we need more debates. Here's what he told the crowd.
Will we let the circus run unchallenged on every channel as we cower in the shadows under a decree of silence in the ranks? Or will we demand equal time to showcase our ideas, our solutions to America's challenges, and real leadership for real results?
So he took on the DNC right in front of the DNC and right in front of the party leadership. Bernie Sanders was the last one to speak, made a very powerful argument that that the only way Democrats can win, he said, you got to win. Democrats have to win not just the White House, but the Senate and the House and state legislatures and governors' races. And the only way to do it is to get people excited and increase voter turnout. And he said, I'm the one who's been able to do that. He talked about all the big crowds he's had, all the money that he's raised from grassroots donors. And he said, so, people are responding to my message. I can generate the excitement we need to win, and nobody else is doing it. But he says, and all of this, don't think of this as anti-Hillary. He said this yesterday, made this point yesterday.
The gains that we are seeing and the enthusiasm and the huge crowds that we are seeing, this is not anti-Hillary Clinton. This is pro-Bernie Sanders and pro a message that says enough is enough.
Yep. People are responding to that message. By the way, Bernie said he's got over 400,000 donors. The average donation, $31.20.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And, if you look at the poll numbers, they show that these aren't anti-Hillary voters. They're pro-Bernie voters. They don't have a negative view of Hillary. They just have a really positive view of Bernie.
Yeah. So, Bernie, he's ahead 7 points in New Hampshire. And he's within 7 points of Hillary in Iowa. Could Bernie Sanders win Iowa and New Hampshire? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here on this Monday, August 31.
Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Dana Liebelson from Huffington Post joins us at the half hour here on this Monday edition, last day of August, of The Bill Press Show. We've been talking about the big show out in Minneapolis on Friday, mentioning Bernie Sanders coming up now within 7 points of Hillary in Iowa. And the Sanders campaign announcing this morning he is heading to Iowa for a 3-day sweep of Iowa. Many different events. It's up on the website, BernieSanders.com. If you're out there and want to meet up with a good senator. I was lucky enough to have dinner with him Thursday evening. And I said, Bernie, what people are saying is, yeah, you're getting big crowds and everything, but you're just another Howard Dean, and people are not going to show up at the caucuses. And Bernie said, oh, no. He said, that's not going to happen. He told me that they have a big ground operation in Iowa. Anybody who turns up at these meetings, they are getting their name, their address, their email address, and then they are converting them into volunteers with promises to show up at the caucuses. Yeah. Bernie Sanders could win.
This is The Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, But California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California!
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Tech joining us in our studio this morning. Hi, Dana. It's good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. So, is it obligatory for everybody who works at Huffington Post to have their own band?
Yeah, I think they actually make us, they ask us that in the interviews.
Oh, they do?
You got to give you a demo before you go in?
Yeah, we have to show our musical abilities and whether we can report.
Oh, good. Yeah. Now, does Ariana have a Greek band? Is that what?
You'll have to ask her. I don't think I can comment on that.
Oh, okay. Right. How about your band?
Yeah, so I play in a DC-based punk band. I'm also interested in talking about the Ashley Madison hack as well. We don't have to just talk about my band.
Well, I want to know about your band.
So my band is called Hemlines, and it's actually a bit of a journalist band. We're fronted by a Washington Post data reporter. So,
really?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Hemlines. Do you have a website?
We do. Bandcamp. You can find us on Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
I'll tweet it out.
All right.
I'll make sure everybody gets to hear it.
All right, good. We want to help our friends.
Sure,
right?
thanks.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Good. Now, for the interest of full disclosure, I never signed up for Ashley Madison. Okay.
Thought that might have gone differently.
So did I. It's kind of freaking.
I'm not sure about Peter Ogburn here.
Sure.
I can
we won't ask anyone to comment on that.
I can just speak for myself.
Thanks.
But this is a massive. I mean, we've heard about all the hacking with Target and and all the rest, right? Macy's and all the rest. But this was a massive breach of privacy. And how many people?
It depends on who you ask, but Ashley Madison had tens of millions of users, so we're talking about a lot of user data online.
And all of it, right, was revealed, or?
So what we're seeing is, there was a lot of personally identifiable information, including, names, email addresses, last 4 digits of a credit card number, even sexual interest. There was a lot of very incriminating data released, which I think is what makes this hack kind of unique. Everyone's nervous if their credit card information gets leaked from Target, but when it's being revealed that you're having an affair on your wife, all of a sudden people are starting to pay attention to data security.
Now, is this being the Chinese being blamed for this as well?
I don't think there really has been a lot of attribution. I think a lot of people have sort of floated theories about it, maybe being an inside job, but I think it's pretty early to be speculating on anything like that.
But some of the people, I just saw the head of Ashley Madison was either fired or left.
Yeah,
So-
the CEO has stepped down of the parent company, which is Avid Life Media.
Okay, why? I mean,
So, what I think is so interesting about this case is it kind of brings up this question, to what extent are companies responsible
Right.
for these kinds of hacks? And, I think what we're finding is that increasingly, the government is holding these companies accountable. There was a court ruling recently that said the FTC can sue companies if they've been negligent with consumer data. And there's a big question here, to what extent Ashley Madison did protect data. Because, if you go on the website, not that I was on the website, it says...
I hope you were during your research.
Sure,
this
yeah,
is your
for
field.
work.
Right.
It says very clearly on the website, hey, we keep your data really secure. And they also had this kind of unique provision where if you wanted to be erased from the site, you had to pay them money to have your information fully
So once you
erased.
signed up, so you signed up for free?
Yes.
And then you pay the money to have your name taken off the website?
Yeah. And
a
so,
scam.
you can see that they ended up with a lot of information because maybe someone, I don't know how much it was, but maybe someone said, hey, I don't want to pay $10 to get my information off this website. So I think we've already seen some class action.
That is a scam.
What a scam.
So, all right. So what recourse do the people who had signed up for the site thinking their privacy was going to be protected, and now it's all out there? What recourse do they have?
Well, I mean, they can probably join one of these class action lawsuits if they're so inclined. But I think the bigger issue is once the data's out there, it's kind of too late. I mean, then
Right.
at that point, you're just picking up the pieces. That's why the emphasis on data security is so important. Because, trying to find your data after it's on the internet is much more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think part of the issue here that's being sort of underreported is as much of a stigma as on this particular thing, what it can mean for other websites, right? Like even if it's just more vanilla dating websites where you put your personal interests and wants and desires, and they also take credit card numbers, or, Netflix of things that you're watching and credit card numbers. I know that the Ashley Madison thing is morally not okay, but it's a bigger issue, I think, than just the creeps that were on this website,
Absolutely. I think this is, I'm not so interested in this being a story about infidelity. It's much more interesting if you look at it as a story of data security.
Yeah, totally.
I talked to a former a former IT person at Ashley Madison who had sort of run IT there for a couple of years. And he was sort of, his position was like, look, I actually thought their data security was good. The reality is your information is just not going to be 100% protected wherever you are. So that's something, we maybe should think about as we're moving forward and putting anything online, anything personally identifiable.
Well, that's I think the basic question. Is there any such thing as data security online?
I mean, yes. I think I don't want to use this as an example of saying no, we shouldn't even bother with encryption and things like that. All of those steps are very, very important, and companies should take them. I just am saying, as a personal user, I personally am very wary about what I put online and what I put into websites. I have tons of fake identities.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
But I just think you have to operate on the premise today that there's no such thing as privacy.
I think as a private user, sure, yeah. I think that's a good position to be in, but I also think you should hold the companies you do business with to a high standard of data security.
Agreed, but I
Yeah.
just don't know to what extent they can deliver.
Sure.
So before we move on to some of the other cases, I'd also read that this was, in at least one article, a couple of articles, that this was an inside job. That hasn't been established?
I don't think anyone has officially done that attribution. Doing attributions for these kinds of hacks is always a very, very slippery business. So I'm reluctant to sort of say, yeah, we definitely know who it is so early in the game.
Okay. So we have all these, before Ashley Madison, all these American corporations which were hacked, right, and their customers' information released. but also government agencies, the White House, the Pentagon, kind of across the board.
Right.
A lot of them attributed to the Chinese. Has that been proven yet or established?
I think it's been established that China definitely has a very vibrant sort of hacking operation. But in terms of
targeting American corporations,
sure,
right?
yeah, no,
and I
think
guess targeting American governments as well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been following that as closely, but that sort of raises a bigger question. To what extent do we want the government to be responsible for enforcing data security when they're not able to enforce it themselves? I think there was a GAO report that said something like 17 out of 24 federal agencies had weak data security. That's a little bit troubling to me.
17 out of 24?
Yeah, I think that was the stat.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we're seeing that play out. I mean, we're seeing the data leaks coming all the time.
I remember back in the first year of the Obama administration, John Harwood from CNBC was interviewing the president, and he asked him the question, so what is it that, but this is Obama's first year in office, but he said, from what you've learned so far and what you've seen so far, what is the one issue that keeps you awake at night, that you're most worried about? And he said, cybersecurity, without even hesitating, cybersecurity.
Sure.
Which stunned me because it wasn't even on my radar. I mean, I wouldn't think of it. How serious an issue is it? And is it still something
yes,
that would
I agree.
keep
I think
him
it's only
awake at night?
I think its importance is only gonna grow as we I think we're gonna keep seeing more of these leaks, and we need to figure out how to deal with it. And I'm not sure the answer to that is totally clear cut yet. Because on one hand we have a federal government that's interested in eroding encryption and building backdoors into companies so that they can also be doing surveillance on Americans. So, when that's the example being set by your government, should we expect companies to say, oh, maybe, yeah, we should really invest in this? I don't know the answer, but.
Yeah, and when you have a government whose policy is to allow NSA to listen in on every one of our phone calls and track every one of our emails, then it's kind of hard for them to make the argument that we need to protect the right of privacy, right?
Sure, and like what the important part of cybersecurity legislation is the information sharing, right, between the private companies and the government. On one hand, yes, that's great. It can help stop cyber attacks. On the other hand, more information sharing makes some people a little nervous given all the revelations about the NSA and things.
But the implications and the danger are extraordinary. I mean, in a sense, I guess, hacking into like Macy's and getting information on customers of Macy's, as inconvenient as that is to those customers, cybersecurity, I mean, what people could also hack into are like our electric grid, our transportation system.
Sure.
I mean,
the infrastructure hacking is sort of interesting because it's just so far behind in terms of being caught up with cybersecurity. At the same time, I don't like stay awake at night panicking about all of these things. I don't think that's the most productive.
Yeah.
Route.
I mean, again, as serious as it is to have somebody's credit card information stolen, if they shut down the electric grid or if the air traffic controller grid, we've got some serious problems.
Well, yeah, you've seen the reports about the possibility of being able to like hack airplanes and reroute them.
Yeah.
That's what is kind of nerve-wracking to me, but I think it's a very brave new world. We don't know what's going to happen yet.
Man, I understand why you've got this band to get your mind away from this, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need it once in a while.
And I cover like prison reform too. So between the two of these, not a very cheerful day.
All right. Well, let's move into the good stuff.
Yeah.
Prison reform when we come back.
Yeah.
Dana Liebelson here from Huffington Post. HuffingtonPost.com, of course. It's the Bill Press Show. 866-55-PRESS. Your data hack. Question on cybersecurity. Give us a call. We'll be right back.
Connect with the Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. By the way, just reading in The Hill during the break that former Vice President Dick Cheney has urged Joe Biden to run for president. That's like David Duke endorsing Donald Trump. There's some people just shut up. Yeah. I don't want your name associated with me at all, right? We're talking about more serious issues, however, here with Dana Liebelson from Huffington Post, tech policy reporter at the Huffington Post. But what's the connection between tech policy and prison reform?
I just like to cover everything that's as depressing as possible.
It seems that way.
Leaks and prisons.
Yeah.
Which sort of ties under criminal justice reform.
Well, criminal justice reform is something that President Obama has been very interested in.
And I would say a number of Republicans as well, where criminal justice reform is kind of having a moment right now.
Even this is the Koch brothers, right? The Koch brothers and Obama together on this issue.
The Koch brothers and Van Jones. They like to always hang out at the same events and talk about criminal justice reform.
And this was something that Eric Holder, former Attorney General, was taking a lead on. Now Loretta Lynch. But exactly what are they calling for? And is this something where there might be some bipartisan legislation on this issue?
Yeah, I think we're sort of expecting some kind of package to move after recess. And I think what it's really going to focus on is reform of some of these mandatory drug minimums. And
sentences.
Yes. And we don't know to what extent that reform, like how that reform will play out yet. But I think that's sort of what we're expecting.
So at one time, it was considered the answer to the criminal justice system was the mandatory minimum sentences, right?
Right.
No matter you had 3, and in California we passed this, and Jerry Brown's actually signed into law this 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing, right?
Sure, and then now we're seeing, nonviolent drug offenders who are in prison for life, serving life without parole, based on sort of one nonviolent offense, which is, so I think the goal is to kind of get at some of those people, give them another shot.
And the number of people, I'm sure you've reported, in prison on nonviolent drug offenses, disproportionately minority.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Population.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. What I have also been reporting on, and which I'm sort of interested in, is the issue of youth in adult prisons.
Yeah.
I did a sort of big investigation about that in Michigan, looking at sort of how youth are subject to adult prison practices like solitary confinement and, use of force. And I think there are some lawmakers that are trying to get at the juvenile issue as well. Like we see Booker and Paul's bill, which is, trying to end solitary confinement in the juvenile system. So there's a lot happening. It's sort of an interesting time to be reporting on this stuff.
Yeah, but it's Cory Booker and Rand Paul.
Yes,
so
this is the Redeem Act.
Right. Rand Paul has certainly taken a lead on this issue among Republican senators. I want to circle back to cybersecurity here for just a second. So what can an individual do? I mean, to assure that he or she has as much privacy as possible and still use the internet?
Sure. I mean,
other than just tuning out altogether, right?
Yeah, I definitely recommend
no smartphone or kind of whatever.
I recommend not tuning out. I think there are a number of steps that you can take depending on sort of how invested you are. Not all of them are very complicated. I think you can go so far as to say, I want to use encrypted mail, I want to use Tor, I want to make sure that my information is less traceable. And for someone like me who's a journalist, that's very helpful because I have very sensitive information that I need to protect. In terms of, I think all of the basic good cybersecurity, good privacy practices that you hear about, don't make your password 123. Things like that. We forget about them, but they all add up and they're all important.
Change your password often?
Yes, that's also good advice.
And you indicated earlier you use a lot of phony names or phony.
Oh, no. I was just saying, like, when I
you said that.
Okay, when I sign up for, any number of things where they need your information, I have a whole separate junk email account, separate junk information for all those that I kind of use. Not that it might not help. It makes me feel better.
Right.
I don't. I'm just not very good. I can't even remember the password I have for my own normal stuff. So
no,
I have an editor who kind of takes the position that anything he puts online, he'd have to be okay with 10,000 people reading, and that's sort of how he runs his online life. And
I think you almost have to live that way today.
Yeah,
you almost have to assume.
Just assume
you assume. I remember. When I was working for Jerry Brown years and years ago, right? The kind of rule was don't write anything or don't put anything in writing that you don't want to see on the front page of the newspaper the next day because somebody's going to leak it. Somebody could easily leak it. So don't put anything online that you don't expect the world to read.
Sure, and at the same time, I think we should try to expect some privacy for, say, our credit card information.
Let's hope so.
But,
yes. All right. Hey, Dana, great stuff. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Good luck with the band. We'll see you again soon.
Cool. Yeah.
Dana Liebelson from Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show, every day covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. You know, we started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, we're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide. Reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, just to find a word on the big meeting of the DNC I attended in Minneapolis on Friday with the 4 Democratic candidates. Lincoln Chafee, very impressive record that he outlined as mayor, as senator, as governor. Hillary Clinton gave a great speech, just went after the Republican candidates and hit all the right buttons on all the right issues. Martin O'Malley blasting the Democrats for limiting the number of debates, and then Bernie Sanders challenging everybody, saying you've got to excite people and turn them out if you want to win, and he's the one who can do that. All in all, it was a great show, and most importantly, what a great contrast between our 4 outstanding Democrats for president and those 17 clowns on the other side. That's it for today, folks. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.